this video lesson today on Appel Indirect, this really fun, quirky Django Reinhardt song that I always use as the second song in my introduction to gypsy jazz class. I find minor swing is always the first song I love to teach. That's the most famous song. This one is kind of an obscure song that I discovered really demonstrates some of these neat, quirky things about Django Reinhardt's style. So if this is new for you, then that's great. I would love to introduce you to these topics. It's kind of a two-chord song. It's really just C6, and then the B section is D flat 6. Django was fascinated by half-step movements. A lot of his songs feature chord movements and modulations involving half steps, such as Hungaria, Djangology. This one does as well. Again, he just loved slipping around these half-step movements. There's a lot of neat musical relationships theoretically with half-step movement, dealing with tritone substitution, that further down the road I'll get into with videos. But for now, we're just going to treat it kind of like a modal song, almost like Miles Davis's So What, even though this was back, I think he recorded this in '37, I'm not sure. You can post it on my comments when it was written, but it's an early Django tune, and he does a C6 chord for 8 measures for the A section, and then he does it again for another 8 measures, so it's 16 measures just on C6. And I'm just kind of doing this for C6. I'm just barring across. Really, I'm trying to get this bass note, mainly because it's just myself right now playing, no bass player. Otherwise, I might just do this, kind of like if you were to go to a ukulele and strum the top 4 strings, you'd get that C6 chord. You can also play it here. So, it's important to kind of figure out where you like to play it. It's a little bit darker here. It's a little bit more throaty. Or here. It's a little bit brighter. So, decide. And if I'm just playing with a duo or something, I might just do the C in the bass. Just to get that little bass line. C, G, root 5th, root 5th. So again, discover what works well for you. This C6 would work fine. That's nice. Or this one. So, again, there's a couple different options. So again, do what works best for you. And definitely try to figure out a few different shapes. At least try them out. So it's 16 measures on C6, and then 8 measures up a half step to D flat 6. And there's a little stop time there in the melody portion, not for the solos. And then back to C6 for the last 8. So I mentioned Miles Davis's So What. It's kind of always the most famous modal jazz song. But this one has the same kind of form. It's 16 measures on the A section on a C6 chord. I kind of treat it more as a dominant sometimes, which is kind of what I think is intended, and then a D flat 6 chord for 8 measures again. So that A section is 16 on C, B section is 8 on D flat, then last 8 again on C6 or C7. And what do I actually call it C7. It's kind of like a dominant thing. You can do all your dominant ideas, your blues licks, and all this cool, wacky whole tone stuff, and diminished arpeggios if you want. And I say that because when you actually listen to the recording, at least the one that I'm referring to, the early one, as Django's doing that quirky melody, that half-step embellishment off a C6 shape, Stefan is just holding this one note. So that B flat creates a C7 chord. So it's really interesting that even though Stefan's not playing anything fancy like Django is, he's just holding that dominant 7 to create a dominant 7 effect while the rhythm guitars are in C6. So again, it's kind of like a dominant if you're wanting to pursue soloing on it. But for this lesson, I'm going to teach you the basic melody, and I already taught you the chords. It's that easy. So here we go. Here's the melody. Visualize a C6 shape, and we're going to do this kind of like a great exercise. So I'm definitely targeting this. I would say it's easiest to play it here. And again, we're going half step below. This is called the lower neighbor tone. It can also be called an approach note. So So we're going, and I'm alternating my picking. And he kind of hangs on that note. That's a sharp 11 or a sharp 4. Kind of creates a cool dark flavor. Could be called a flat 5 if you wanted to. Kind of like a blues lick. So it's quirky. That's very Django. Here it is a little bit slower with a little swing. That's twice, 3 times, and then he breaks into the famous diminished run with a little kind of a minor lick on top. It's pretty bluesy. So I'm not going to really say minor. It could be kind of a blues lick where that's like a sharp 9 or flat 3, of course. And he goes to the 5th the first time. So that diminished run, I'll do it slow in a second here, but that's one of the most popular devices in gypsy jazz. This. So if you're not used to that, in this case it's starting on F sharp, and it goes F sharp to A. It's 3 frets, and then starting on C in the next string, and that's 3 frets, so it's 5, 8, and then it repeats up an octave. F sharp to A, that's 7, 10, and then 8 to 11, C to E flat again. So when you piece it together, it's... Don't forget that little scale tone in there, and then back to the root, and then to the 5th, the G. Here it is slow. One thing that really helps my students and myself when I visualize these arpeggios is just to outline it with your first finger. Just kind of, I call it the skeleton. So you have F sharp, C, F sharp, and C. And this is all with the first finger. So get used to doing that. Right? You recognize that? That's a tritone. Really great notes. And then, of course, when you add this on, the minor third, that's what creates the diminished 7 arpeggio. And there's just that little bluesy phrase. But again, Django starts it on F sharp. But F sharp diminished, or it could be called C diminished. It could be called E flat diminished or A diminished 7. It can have 4 different names, even though it's the same arpeggio, and that's because it's symmetrical. It's all minor thirds and all that diminished stuff that gets slid around. You hear it all the time in gypsy jazz. It's super fun for guitar because, again, you can just slide around every 3 frets. We'll get more into that on a separate video, but for now, just practice this. And if you need to do this first, just do that a lot to visualize with your first finger. Then add on the other finger. And that's the first ending there, I guess you could say, for that A section. The second time he changes the lick a little bit just to resolve it. And he resolves it onto the C. And now it's still kind of that bluesy lick. That's it on C. It's C, D, E flat, 8, 10, 11. Then a little trill. Very Django. So here's the A section. Oh, I think I'm skipping the intro too. I should talk about the intro real quick. The intro is just 8 measures of the same little riff. It's just a 1 measure riff. That's it. Do that 8 times, 8 measures. And it's a Charleston rhythm. It's 1, 2, and, 1, and, 1, 2, 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 and, go. That's the A section. That's once. That's twice. That's 3 times. Diminish. Repeat. I'll do it slower in a second. I'm just demonstrating. That's 3 times. And then that's your A section. Now it's a 16 measures just on this C6 chord. Okay, so then the B section is really easy. You just take that same exact riff, which is the embellishment on a C6 shape, and you go up a half step to to a D flat 6 outline 3 times, and then on the 4th time you want to do this. You go up and then move down a half step back to the C. So that was the B section there. Then you go back to the A section. I'm going to do the B section. 1, 2, 3, 4. New key. That's D flat. That's once. That's twice. And that's 3 times. And then up it, down a half step, and then the last A. And then 1. If you're going to end the song. Or you could do this. And then you're off into solo land. Django gets pretty bluesy and he does some really cool licks. I would highly recommend listening to it. Listen to it slow down if you can. I use the Amazing Slow Downer. You can slow down on Google, on YouTube, in your browser. But listen to it. There's some really great ideas, from triads to blues licks to open strings. Really cool licks in there, cool ideas. I'll do a separate video demonstrating some of those, what I call C stuff ideas. Just so many great, embellishments. Just pretty stock Django stuff that sounds great. You can apply it to everything, and it's just one chord. But I always show my students that you could use it on, rhythm changes. 1, 6, G5. Those same licks sound great. You can play whole tone. The whole bag of tricks. Diminished, everything. Okay, so I think we're about ready to play the song here. Nice and slow. We have the intro. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 8 measures. That's 2. That's 4. Here we go. Melody. Once. Twice. And diminish. Repeat. Once. Twice. That's 3 times. And then B section. That's up a half step. And then this time, up it, down a half step, and repeat. The A section. And that time I chose to do this. That's very Django too. So I went A flat 9, G9, and then C6. He actually, I think, does that on one of the recordings. There's a few recordings of there. So that's what you would want to do. If you were to end the song, again, our classic ending lick there, starting on the 5th, G, going to C. You do it in octaves if you want to as well. So, there you have it. That's Django's Appel Indirect. Please give it a listen. You're going to find it to be a really fun song. It looks really scary on paper when you see it on sheet music, but again, that's really just it. It's a great exercise into the world of Django and the quirky half-step movements. So, thank you for watching my tutorial on Appel Indirect. We'll see you next time. Bye.